Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those within the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome to Insights. I'm Sherry Stewart. This week we're joined by two area stakeholders from the Alpena MLK Committee. They're helping to put together resources to guide a healthy conversation on race and diversity from the classroom to the community. But before we have that conversation, we want to bring you our interview with Paula Herbert. She's president of the Michigan Education Association. Well, Paula, I want to thank you for joining us today to talk about the MEA's response to a couple of House bills that have been, I guess, passed regarding education and virtual learning. And you have some very strong opinions about them. Let's just go right through them here. I see, I'm just reading from House Bill 5911, and it says that this bill would amend Section 21F of the State School Aid Act, which governs virtual courses and virtual education. And you have an opinion, from what I've read in your statement, that you are opposed to that. So explain to us what are the guidelines, or where do you see that this bill goes wrong?
Well, where this bill goes wrong is that it allows educators who understand their communities intimately and their students intimately to be outsourced by educators in a remote learning environment who have no idea what those students may need or how they learn. And currently, it is illegal to outsource any education services, meaning certificated staff and paraeducators cannot be outsourced. That while you may be allowed legally to privatize custodial maintenance workers and food service workers and other types of support staff, you cannot outsource education, which is teachers and learning and paraeducators and learning. And that's critical because we know, and our stance is, that when we have these highly trained, professional developed educators who understand very clearly what the needs are of their students in that community. They either live in those communities, they've worked in those communities for years, and they are certificated staff by accredited universities throughout this state and across this country, and they are required to do professional development. They're required to do more extensive graduate learning to maintain their certification. Those are the people we want in front of our students. We don't want somebody that a virtual company for profit may have put in there who knows something about what it means to educate children, but may not have the credentials that are required under the Michigan certification process. That's critical. We need to ensure that our students are getting exactly what they deserve. And that's a secure, accredited, and time-honored educator who has committed to that community.
Okay, and just to confirm, so the House bills, is this law now, or do they now have to go through the Senate? Do you know what the next step is in that?
Go through the Senate. The Senate can propose changes, make changes, and then it would go back to the House. And once the Senate, if the Senate were to approve it and amend it, then the House would have to revisit the bill with the amendments as made by the Senate. And then once that happened, then the House would go through it a second time and pass the bill. But then it would go to the governor's desk. Okay, so the governor has the right to approve that, sign that into law, or veto that.
Mm-hmm. And in your estimation, Paula, are we close to this? Is this something that we might see implemented in this upcoming fall semester, or are we several months out? What is your estimation?
Well, I believe that it's the House of Representatives hoping that it gets through quite quickly before the start of fall. The Senate is meeting on it this week and doing work on it this week. Then, of course, it has to go back to the House. That will take some time. So I'm not sure about the timeline, but I want to be clear that the MEA is not opposed to virtual learning. We just think that our members, the teachers hired by the school district, that it should be their curriculum, their expertise, and them imparting that virtual learning to their students. We're not opposed to remote learning and virtual learning. What we are opposed to is the privatizing and outsourcing of our work and our jobs in which we are experts to people that are uncertain of their expertise and their ability to do that work.
Now, would you consider for a moment, Paula, that perhaps this is a well-meaning bill, but perhaps the people behind it or the legislators behind it may not really understand how difficult it is to educate? I believe everybody thinks that they can be a teacher until they step inside a classroom. Do you think perhaps it's some of that behind this?
I think that there are those in the legislature who are hoping to open up opportunities for students, which is always a good thing. However, House Representative Pam Hormerberger, who introduced this bill, is a former educator, was on a school board of the L'Anse Creuse Public Schools for many years, and is, in my belief, trying to privatize and outsource our jobs under the playbook of Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. Okay, and that will kill our public schools, and that's just completely inappropriate.
So, Paula, I know obviously that you represent the teachers in the state. What is the feedback that you're getting from educators relative to the passage of this House bill?
Well, they're appalled, because what they know is that when you pass laws like these, you water down the expertise and the professionalism of educators across this state, who have dedicated their lives, who have gone to four-year universities, gotten degrees, gotten master's degree, gotten master's plus 30 extra credit hours, who are doctorates in some cases. And when you allow private companies to put in educators virtually, where we are not allowed to know their expertise, nor are they open to the same kind of scrutiny as a private company, as public schools are, and public school educators, to allowing those records to be a part of the public record and FOIA-able, then there's no fidelity in ensuring that the people working with your students online are actually certificated staff and have the expertise that we are certain of in our Michigan public schools.
And so to clarify, before we let you go, Paula, you're not opposed, meaning MEA, certainly not opposed to virtual learning, but you just want to ensure that those that are providing that critical education to our students, that they are properly trained, educated educators.
Correct, and that they are already employed by the school district, which may be implementing virtual learning. That if I teach in Fraser Public Schools like I did for 20 years, when we introduced our virtual platform to students, we ensured that it was our Fraser teachers and our Fraser curriculum being imparted over the virtual network. And that's what's critical.
Absolutely. Well, this is certainly an issue to watch, and we'll be watching, and we want to thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much.
There is more insights coming up. Next, we'll be joined by two area stakeholders who have some thoughts and suggestions on how to promote a more diverse curriculum in our area schools.
Insights will return after these messages.
Welcome back to Insights. Joining me now is Tom Orth, pastor of Grace Lutheran Church here in Alpena. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also, Lenny, you're also a pastor. Lenny Avery, the executive director of the Alcona County Commission on Aging.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have a lot to get to, from our individual efforts to our collective efforts as part of the MLK committee. And I'll also mention that I'm also a part of the committee. So want to just dive right into what the committee is doing. I know we have a lot going on that we're trying to present to our area school systems and get them involved and have us involved with them. So Pastor Orth, I'll start with you on what is some of that, what might that look like this year?
Well, in the past, we've usually had activities on MLK Day. And then this year we brought in a program for the entire week to go into the school systems in junior high. And that's what we want to expand on and take it to the Alpena High School in this coming year. And then we were really energized by this program as a committee. And so we want to move to activities that are going to be going on throughout the year and keep this subject up there. And we were talking about this in January before all the events happened in the spring, and now it's just that much more relevant to have conversation and to learn, particularly in a community that does not have diversity in it.
And then Lydia, I know that earlier this year, that's, I believe, the first time we actually met, and you were a part of the diversity panel that we had at Thunder Bay Theater. So tell me what your thoughts are in terms of engaging with the community and helping to be a part of this effort to expand the dialogue on race and diversity in our respective areas.
I think I want to say that I am humbled and just appreciative by the outpouring of just awareness a little bit. You know, the community had a very peaceful, loving march that had over 750 people. I think right now people are looking to have the conversation. And I think that what we're trying to do is encourage people to have the conversation in a loving manner, in a respectful manner, and to, you know, exchange ideas. Because when we come together on understanding each other, we fear each other less. People fear what they don't understand. And when we get that mutual understanding, that fear ticks down. I get to see you as a person, not as a scary person across the way. I get to know you. You become my neighbor. You become a part of my community. And that's what I want to encourage, you know, the conversation and the work from the MLK committee and the things that we're doing in these schools is to encourage that initiative, because that is what's going to demystify this thing. That's what's going to help us see each other as brother and sister.
And this is to either one of you. You just mentioned, Lenny, about having the conversations in a loving way, a respectful way. What do you think makes these conversations so difficult to have? We believe that people want to have dialogue, but it seems as though there's a barrier. There's something that keeps us at a distance. What do you think some of those things might be?
I think the word racism, speaking as a white person, scares people because they think you're going to say you're a racist if you've done something that's been offensive. And we need to understand that there can be intentional racist acts and there can be unintentional ones just because you don't know. But we're all part of a system that unfortunately is racist and has a racial bias history in it in this country. I just this week looked up more to learn about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment and was just appalled at it. This year I just learned about the Tulsa race massacre. And it's those events that are within American history, and African Americans know them, and we as white people don't know them, and we can begin to learn and understand why there is some tension and some difficulty in having these conversations.
And I want to follow up on it a little bit. I think I cannot have people continue to say, I'm colorblind. I don't need you to be colorblind. I need you to be color brave. I need you to be willing to talk about diversity. I want you to have the awkward conversation. It's not enough not to be racist. You have to actively fight racism. You have to be a part of the solution. And I think having the awkward conversation is okay. Having the uncomfortableness is okay. Because, you know, it's all about, like, you know, I can equate it to dating. If you're dating someone or getting to know somebody, that first date is awkward. You're right. You're trying not to say something wrong. You want to give the best impression of each other, and as you get to know each other, you know, you feel more comfortable. Well, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that awkwardness. It's going to take that sitting across the table going, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. And I want to also put onus on you know, African Americans, Native Americans. It's on us to accept the awkwardness. If it's a false start and they trip and fall flat on their face, but the intention was there, it's okay to forgive and say, you tried. You know, baby steps. I have watched people wholeheartedly dismiss efforts from people who are literally trying from a place of love and say, well, it's better you just shut up. You just got rid of an ally, a potential ally, you know? So I want to say that that's the first place where we have to kind of start, is that be willingness to have the conversation regardless of the uncomfort level. Because the elephant's in the room. You can't ignore it. It's there, you know? So we have to kind of address it while it's time. And that's how we heal.
And I like how you say color brave.
Yeah, we have to. We can't ignore it. We have to acknowledge that there's a difference in experiences and talk about that. I was in another meeting this morning and somebody said, they had just read a post on Facebook, was, I've learned so much from my mistakes. I'm going to make more of them.
Exactly. Exactly. We're not a perfect people, you know, and perfection is something that you just don't measure up to. And you learn more from adversity. We learn more from the mistakes that we actually have, you know, and the way that we heal is sometimes we have to take out that under layer that's dead, that's dying, to get to the good tissue, to remove those hard layers, the scab, so that can heal. And sometimes it bleeds again. Sometimes there's some hurt again. But ultimately you want to bring to a place of healing. But you just can't say that that isn't happening. I'm colorblind, I don't see color, there's no black. Yeah, it is. We know this. You know, an experiment I do with kids, and you know, I got it from a well-known sociologist. She said to a crowded room of white Americans, she said, how many of you would stand up right now and trade places with an African American right now? Not a famous African American, just an African American on the street. And the camera's panned, no one's standing. She said, if you could not just immediately stand up, then you know that there's something different in America. Now let's address that.
And with that, we'll take a break and we'll come back. I think that's a perfect place for a segue. We'll come back and we'll talk about some of the things that you're doing in Alcona County, Lenny. And then also, Pastor Orth, we'll talk more about, I believe we have an essay contest coming up for students. So we want to talk more about that and let everybody know how they can get involved with that.
Excellent.
So there's more of Insights. We'll be right back after this.
Insights will return after these messages.
Welcome back to Insights. Again, joining me is Tom Orth, pastor of Grace Lutheran Church, and also Lenny Avery, executive director of the Alcona County Commission on Aging. And again, you're also a pastor. So before the break, we were talking about having those uncomfortable conversations. And Lenny, I know that you're doing something really innovative, something really special in Alcona County involving the youth. Tell us about that and how it can potentially spread to other areas.
So we started as a volunteer and as a person in our community, I said, you know, I want to be the change I want to see. So I reached out to the superintendent and the principal and I said, hey, I want to volunteer my time to teach a mentorship class to your high school and your elementary school kids. And here's a curriculum. I'm going to talk about compassion, about, you know, fiscal responsibilities and all these different things. And they said, absolutely. That started 3 years ago. And we've been able to reach the 50 students in the schools, and all of them volunteer. You know, our high school kids, they come in and they volunteer their time to come to this class. They get up at 7 o'clock in the morning with me, and they go from 7 to 9, and we talk about all these issues. And it's really amazing to hear from young people on these issues, the things that are affecting them today. So I decided to talk to them again about the curriculum this year, about making it a little bit more diversity. Talk about the African American diaspora, talk about Native American studies, and really try to infuse a little bit of cultural things, because what we have now in our current school systems is basically 2 points of African American history, which is Martin Luther King and slavery, and that's it. But there's so much amazing history that is left on the cutting room floor, the 54 Massachusetts, the Tuskegee Airmen, you know, some of these amazing patriots that have been a part of our lexicon that made it great. We also have amazing Native Americans that have been a part of our culture, you know. So we are trying to design a curriculum that's going to engage these young people to talk about it and build it off of a kind of a collegiate format. And then we're also going to be working with some of our younger kids of kind of introducing African Americans and people of color in a different light than what they've seen. So one of the books is by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It talks about African American inventors. You know, things that kids use every day, invented by people of color. You know, and it started to kind of move the needle. You know, I teach in my older class about the power of 1 degree. From, you know, at 199 degrees, you just have water. But at 200 degrees, you have boiling water. And with boiling water, you get steam. And with steam, you get power. That's the power of 1 degree. I'm not asking for wholesale change. I'm asking for 1 degree, one little tick on the radar for them to just kind of say, I can look at this person differently for that long. I can interview someone differently. I could see someone differently, because that's how change happens. It's gradual. Sometimes it's wholesale shift, but sometimes it's a gradual change. And that's what we're trying to work with, having these kids, especially most of these kids will not have an African American teacher until they're in college because there's not a lot in the school systems. You know, I didn't have my first African American teacher in the South until I was in high school. That's crazy.
Interesting. A lot there, a lot to unpack. So, Pastor Orth, with the essay contest, so how do you see the MLK committee working with the school systems here, or the school system, the educators here in Alpena specifically, to help broaden the discussion, to help provide an opportunity? What type of resources are we offering as a committee in that?
Well, we are going to be offering the essay contest again. We've done that in the past, and we're coming back to it. I want to talk about Dr. King had the statement of a beloved community, and we want to have the kids imagine what a beloved community would look like. And we want to work from there, and it's being offered for the high school and well as the junior high. Okay. And so that there's going to be opportunities through the teachers and the school system to learn about this and then submit them. And our goal is that the winners will be selected and then will be read on Martin Luther King Day in 2021 as part of our evening program. And so the community can hear some of these kids too, and we've had some great things in the past. And so we just want to continue to offer this as a way for the teachers to do something too, give them a project that can be involved in the school system, and the kids can learn what Dr. King meant by a beloved community. And so that can be here and it can be everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And in your opinion, how important is it for the committee to serve as a resource? It looks like we're serving as a resource for educators and providing those great tools for them to use. This essay contest is kind of turnkey. You don't have to do a whole lot, but just present it to your students. So do you foresee the committee serving in more of a role like that?
Well, certainly we are accumulating a lot of information ourselves, and we will share that with the teachers. The teachers are very good about finding the resources that they need to teach. I think we are a better resource for the community in getting information out to them. And in that regard, we're going to be looking to start a book discussion group in the fall. And we're going to be looking to screen some movies and then have discussions around those. And those can be very powerful. I recently, earlier this year, did a workshop called Doing Our Own Work. It's for white people to learn about anti-racism and racial justice. And there was a powerful video in there that really struck me, and it talked about the GI Bill during World War II, and that most of the African American veterans coming out of World War II did not receive the benefits. I think you've said like 100 of them.
100 out of 1 million.
Yeah, and those type of benefits for schooling or homes, purchasing of homes, those are the things that influence generations down the road. They give resources to the family, the bigger family unit. And that's one of the reasons we have some differences in this country, is because it was not equally offered to all of the GIs coming out of World War II.
Generational wealth is what that would have impacted,
yes,
for sure.
Exactly. And so making people aware of those type of issues, they can begin to understand others' experiences more. And I think that's about getting to know people, and that's about appreciating that we live in the same country, but we've had different experiences that have influenced the way we are and how we think and feel, and we just need to recognize that in each other and hear from each other.
In your mind, and this is either of you, would it be worth noting that just because the community is not already racially diverse doesn't mean that the people that are there, the community, is opposed to having these very important conversations? I think sometimes people have the misunderstanding or perception that is wrong, that because the community is not diverse already, that they don't want to have these type of conversations. Would you agree?
No, I very much agree, because we're part of the greater country, we're part of the greater world. And the panel that you referred to earlier that the Thunder Bay Theater did in February that we were all on, had more people attend that and people I had not seen before at some of these programming. So there are people interested in this community. You talked about the people that came out for the Black Lives Matter march. People are interested in this topic. They know we're part of something more than just here locally, and that's important.
And anything else before I let you gentlemen go today?
I think it's important to move away from the melting pot scenario we've always said America is. America is a salad, okay? And the reason why I say a salad is because you can taste the difference in the salad. You can taste the crouton, you can taste the carrot, and that brings out flavor. As the great lyricist Flavor Flav once said, you got to have flavor. you know, and that's kind of what understanding diversity is celebrating people's differences, but integrating that into your own lexicon, into your own view, into your own homes. And I think a lot of that is intentional. I think you have to go out and make yourself watch movies that you normally wouldn't watch. Talk to people that don't have the same ideas as you. That helps you reaffirm, that helps you expand your knowledge. If you continue to do and think the same way you've always thought, you're going to continue to act and be the person you've always become. And that right there is a definition of stagnation. Anything that's stagnant dies. It's nature. Flowing water is living water, and we are living water. So go out, learn, love, and be the change that you want to see in other people.
Absolutely. Well, on that, we can't end with a better statement than that. So I want to thank you, Pastor Orth and Lenny Avery, again, for joining us today for this important dialogue on Insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for this week's Insights. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at news@wbkb11.com. I'm Sherry Stewart. Have a great week.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.